Hello, my name is Coburn Flannery. I'm the Director of eBusiness at the Granite Group, coming to you virtually from our Concord counter to talk to you today about a feature of the online store, My List, which allows you to create lists of products for jobs, materials, stockrooms, and so forth. I'm going to go through that with you today. So first off, you have to be signed in to access My List in the online store. And you do that by clicking on the sign in button up here on the left and sign in with your username and password. If you don't remember your username and password, you can use the forgot password to have a password reset sent to you. If you have not activated your Granite Group account for online access, you can do that here with the Activate Online Access button. Clicking on that button will bring up the form to activate your account for online access. You can enter your company name, your primary order location, your customer number, which will really help us identify your account, first name, last name, the email address that you want to use for the administrator. So what we're going to do is set up, you're going to complete this form. We're going to verify your account information. You are who you say you are, and then we're going to set this email up as the username for the administrator on the account. And then that person would be able to set up additional users as well as see the statement and some other things on the site. Information about user administration is up here in our help and FAQs, the user administration. So I am going to sign in now as our sample customer. I am going to choose, I don't have to choose a bill to because I only have one, but I'm going to say use billing as the ship to, and I'm going to hit continue. So I'm now going to show you that anywhere on the site, so if I was to go to pipe valves and fittings, looking at fittings, I'm looking at black press fittings. Anywhere on the site that there's an add to cart button, there's an add to list button. Clicking on the add to list button will bring up a form where you can create a new list by giving a list name. So I say new list. Or I could add to an existing list that I've already created. So anywhere on the site that there's an add to cart button, for instance, on the results page or on a product detail page, where there's an add to cart, there's add to list. That's true in order history, and then these product detail pages as well. When you add items to the list, your lists are stored under the main navigation My Account menu under My Lists. So here you can see I've created a materials list for a 3/4 inch mega press. Now if I click into this list, I can see the details in this list. So here's all the items that I've added to this list. There's 19 items in this list. The total of all the items in this list is $752.08. That's real-time pricing based on all these items. This is also real-time pricing. So this is coming from our backend system. We do not store price and availability or order history on the site. We actually reach back into the backend system for that. So this page is saying, hey system, what's the price for this customer for this item, and it's showing you that real-time pricing. Same is true of availability. It's showing you that there are 520 of these items total in the company, and I am signed into the Nashville branch right now, which you can see up here. If I were actually to change this to our Concord store, here, it's now changed this to the Concord store. We should see in My List that availability, the total availability should be the same, but the availability is now showing for the Concord. So there's still 520 total in the company, but I am seeing that there's now 9 in Concord because that's where I'm signed in, and the site will remember where I'm signed in. So the next time I sign in, this would have Concord too. If I were to change and sign out, it will remember whatever I changed it to. In terms of the availability, if I, again with the list, I come in here to quickly access some of these items and I see Concord only has 9, but I want 20, I could click to get to the product detail page, and then that availability is going to be shown over here so I can see where availability is in the company for this item. So what branches do actually have it. So back to my list page. You can, so there's these selection boxes on the left-hand side. So clicking on these will activate these other items on here. So if I only wanted to add a couple of these items to the cart, I could change the quantities over here, check these boxes, click add to cart. It's going to add the selected items to the cart. Same with the delete. I could delete the items I have selected over here. I can select all and do a delete or add to cart, and I can unselect all as well. I can also move these items around. So if I felt like this item needed to be below these others, I can click on the grab bar and then slide that down here. If you don't have the grab bar, it's because you're not selected under custom sort. You sorted by date or product code, and then the grab bars would not be available. So you need custom sort to get the grab bar to rearrange these items. I can add items to a list. Clicking on this item, if I wanted to add, I know the code for copper 90, so I could type copper 90 in here, and then I could say add this to the list. It's going to add that copper 90 to my list down the bottom. And then I could click on that to highlight it, and then choose delete. So I've deleted that item from the list. I can also upload items. So there's a spreadsheet template here. Basically, we need the Granite Group code in column A, the quantity code in column B. You'd create that spreadsheet. You'd browse for it on your computer. You'd find that spreadsheet. If it doesn't have headers, which I recommend not having any headers, otherwise you have to have the heading names exactly like the template, when really all you need is the product code in column A and the quantity in column B, and then upload the items to the list. It'll run through the list and add things that it finds to the list. If it doesn't find it, it will give you an alert saying such and such item was not found. That's an easy way to add items from a spreadsheet. Another thing I'd like to point out is lists are user specific. So when I create a list, this list is available only to me. I created it, it's just for me, nobody else can access it, nobody else can mess with it, but maybe I do want to be able to share that list with somebody. So that's where we have this share feature over here. So I could click here, so maybe I want to share this with somebody else in my organization who would benefit from this as well. I can send people a copy of this list, or I could allow others to view and edit this list. Choosing send to is a recommended way, because what that's going to do is create a copy of this list and then email that person a copy of this list, allowing you to keep your original. Again, it made a copy of the list and it's emailing a link to that copy to whoever you send this to. Another way to share is this other option is allow others to view or edit this list. When I choose that, I hit next. I can either share this list with an email, or I can make it available to everybody in a billing account. The share here will not create a list, but allows me to just enter an email address to share this list with. And that, different from sharing with a copy, is it's not making a copy, it's just sharing this to another email address. And then you can allow them to edit it or not edit it. So if you wanted people to order from this but not be able to change it, you would say no. If you want them to be able to edit it, you want to work collaboratively on the list, you can allow them to edit it. Click next. It's going to send them a link to this list, so they would need to be signed in to access this list. Sharing lists the other way via email. People don't need to be signed in to see the list, but they're not going to see price. They're not going to be able to see availability. And when they hit save, it's going to ask them to sign in order to save that list. So you can share lists of items with people who don't have logins, but they're not going to see price, they're not going to see availability, and they're not going to be able to save it. So another form of lists that I would like to share information to you about is lists for job work. So I showed you a list for materials, which could also be used. Let's say you have a stock room. A list could be used to create a list of items that are in your stock room, similar to a material list, but you could order them in the same order that your stock room is, and then you could imagine just going down and looking what's in the bin and be able to update the list based on what's in the bin. You can also create lists for job work. So here's a template for a GV90 boiler job. So if you tend to use the same materials, or you have basically a template of a job that you would do. So if you do a GV90 install and you use that often, well, why not put all the material that you use on that job in this list? So here's a GV90 template. It has the boiler, it has the circulator, the condensate pump, all the stuff that you would use on this job in this list so that you could use this as a template. Great thing here is that here's, again, that list total. There's 19 items in this list, and they total this $11,000 and change for all the materials. So now you know what this job is going to cost you. And this is real-time pricing. So if the price of any of these items change, this total is going to change. An example of that is, let's say this looks like it's for a 4-zone job. Maybe I'm only going to do a 2-zone. So I would change that to 2. Once I click out, it's going to save that value, and you're going to see that the price went down. So now you have a great way to see easily what a job is going to cost you based on the materials from this list. You'll also see up here I added a note that labor was $5,000. I made that up, but I was able to add that note here by editing the list. This is where you could change the name of the list and also add a description. I could say, you know, markup 25%. So now I've given myself a little note that when I do this job, I typically charge $5,000 for the labor. Again, I made that up, and I typically mark the material up 25%. Again, I made that up, but I think you get the point that here's some additional information that if you wanted to quote this job, you now know what roughly what the labor is going to be, roughly what you would do for markup, and you know exactly what the material is going to cost you. Great use of lists. And again, in this list, you can resort items as well, just like the other materials list. You can add all to cart or add just individual items to the cart. If you want to create a copy of this list because maybe you want to keep a 2-zone and a 4-zone, you could copy this list and then go to that copy and then manipulate the quantities and save it in the 2-zone and not affect the 4-zone because it was a copy of this list. So another thing I want to show you about the My List is we have created a bunch of lists for you. So here underneath on the main navigation bar, you'll see the product list library. And this is where we found customers creating a lot of the same lists. So you'll see fittings lists. Customers are always creating lists for fittings. We've already created all those lists for you. So here's an example of 8-inch press fittings, black fittings, I'm sorry. So we've already put all that material together for you. This is a shared list. So I basically created this list and shared it and then put the link to this on the website. Then if I save this, I can save this list to my own list, give it a name, and now I have this fittings list for myself, and I can manipulate it any way I want. Some of the really great lists that are on here are these single zone mini split systems. So we've created lists of the materials that you would use on these jobs. So say you're going to do a single zone hyperheat wall unit with a heat pump in 12,000 BTUs. Here's all the material that you would use on that job. So here's the outdoor, the indoor. Remember, this is a single zone, and more than what you would use. So here's the stand and a pad. Maybe you don't use both, but they're all in here in the list because this is the materials that you would use. So again, you could take this list, save it to your own list, and then, if you prefer the stand over the pad, you could take stuff off this list or manipulate this list any way you want. Some other great lists in here. So a lot of fittings lists, 4Pro list, single zone mini splits that I just showed you, lists for the indoor unit. So the ceiling cassettes, 4-way concealing cassettes, all in this one list. Oil tank packages. So here's oil tank package, the tank, a couple different tanks, everything you would need to do the oil tank job. Again, take things off that you don't need, leave the stuff that you do need, and save this to your own list. So that's the product list library. Lots of stuff in here. We're updating this all the time with feedback that we get from people. So visit back here often, especially if you're about to create a materials list for fittings. Come in here and make sure we haven't already created that list for you. Again, under the help, everything that we just kind of talked about with My List is available under the help, with screenshots telling you what everything is, kind of going over what we've already covered in this video. So I encourage you to use help if you're like me and you watch a video and then you forget what was in the video, you have the help right here for that. So thank you for watching. I hope that you get value out out of lists. I know that we have a lot of customers using lists, and it's a great time saver for them. So I really feel if you're not using lists, please explore lists and get some of that benefit from them as well. Thank you. Have a great day.